And welcome to Technology Tap. This is Professor JRod. On this episode, we're going to have two of my former students come on and talk about their experience taking the CompTIA A Plus exam. They're going to talk about what strategies do they use, what kind of study material that they have, and how difficult was the exam. Let's get to it. All right, welcome back. All right, on this episode, I went and interviewed two of my former students, one who recently took the A plus exam in January, and one that took it January of 2020. And I wanted to get the perspective of taking the A plus exam and what kind of strategies did they use and how did they study and what worked for them. I have a lot of students asking me, "Oh, professor, what's the best way?" And I try to tell them what I think, but there may be other ways that students, study that works for them. And if by them coming on to the show, it may be possible that the way they did it works for you also. And maybe my way doesn't work, but their way may work for you. So, as you guys who know me know I always have my students' best interest at heart. And if you can find a better way to pass, I'm all for it. And then just let me know, and then I'll pass it on. Yeah, I have no qualms with that. So here's the interview with Lisa and Rick. And welcome back, guys. Today we have two special guests, two former students of mine who took the A plus exam, and I know I've previewed this to a lot of students, and I know you guys have been excited and been wanting to hear. So I have two students, Lisa and Rick. They both took the A plus exam, and they were former students of mine. So I want to introduce you. Say hi, Lisa.
Hello.
And Rick. Say hi, Rick.
How you guys doing?
All right, so first question is, for both of you, Lisa, start off with you, ladies first. So what made you choose the A plus exam?
Well, I chose the A plus exam because this is a totally different field for me. I've always been in the medical field, and I've always wanted to get into the technical field. So after doing some research, I was a little lost, and I found out the A plus is a good entry point. So I tried to do self-learning at first, and I figured getting into an actual course would just push me, to my goal quicker. So that's the reason why. And that was a good choice.
Good. And you, Rick?
For me, I was, going to school. They encouraged that we take it. I know that you encouraged that we take it. It was something that could further my career and better myself, and I've always been kind of interested in computers, working on them. So definitely a good place to start.
All right. Where and when did you take the exam, Lisa?
So I took the exam at a Pearson VUE Center, which I've always done. I always felt like, there's less of a chance of technical difficulties. And also when I took it, I believe, in January. That was about, let's say I gave myself, I think, a week or two after the course, which is 4 weeks.
And what was the exam like, Lisa?
So the exam, I got to say the questions are you really got to know your stuff, especially when it's, your first time in technology. There was a lot of little details on troubleshooting and stuff, which you should know. And also the practical based questions, those were, I got to say, you really got to be well-rounded with your studying and different resources, because I found that there were some that I never practiced on before. So that's just a little tip there.
All right. What about you, Rick? Where and when did you take the exam?
I also took it at a Pearson View testing center, but it was posted through the school, so it's kind of convenient. I took it back in January 2020, so quite a while ago now.
And what was the exam like for you?
It was like Lisa said, very tricky questions. You really have to read through the questions, make sure you're going over it as many times as you can to really try to find the answer within the question itself.
So again, that's something that I kind of stress to my students, and you guys know I've said that many times, that the questions has clues. There's clues in a lot of these questions that will help you find the answer, but you have to read the question. That's the whole goal, right? If you skim through the questions, you are not going to get it. You cannot skim the question. You have to actually read it. Good. Anyone can answer. What was your strategy going into the exam? What kind of strategy did you use?
What I used was definitely first and foremost, take a lot of practice questions and make sure you score, pretty high on them consistently, and not just remembering the questions, knowing why the answer's right and why it's not. And also, I always second guess myself when I doubt myself, but trust your studying. If you put in that effort and work, put your mind to it, then just trust it.
Rick?
Honestly, no cards. Trying to remember more of the more detailed information, like the ports. Those definitely help for that.
Good. How long did you take between taking the 1001 and the 1002?
Only a couple weeks, I think, maybe a month.
Lisa?
For me, I felt like it was a little quick, but I felt like I might have been ready. Like I said, trust your study. I did about a week after the course, I did the first one, the 1001. Then the day right afterwards, I did the 1002.
Oh, so you did it one day, and then the next day you did the second one?
Yes.
Wow, you're almost as good as me, except I did both the same day.
Haha.
Yeah, I did mine the same day. But, again, it's like, I had a class, I just finished a class today, and I was telling them, you can do it. Anybody can do it. It's just you have to be mentally prepared to, you got to give it all, right? So I studied for 4 or 5 hours every night. And back then when I took it, the class was, the boot camp class that I teach on, usually on the weekends, was 4 days. Was 4 days. Now it's 5. Now I extended it another day. So I would go home, and I would go home at night and study for 4 or 5 hours. Friday I studied the whole day, and then Saturday I took both exams. But again, if you got to be really, really dedicated to, if you're gonna commit. You really got to commit. You can't go in it half-hearted. If you're gonna do something like that. So what did what kind of study guides did you use? I'm trying to get my students, different options. What do you guys use to study?
So what I used was plenty of different resources. Like I took your course, and which is very helpful. Thank you. And I use different resources. So what I did was, during times when I couldn't sit there and take practice exams, first I'd go through a whole set of videos, like whatever it was, 20 something hours. Then afterwards, I would test myself on practice exams to see what, I need to study more on. So then I would go back and pick another resource and watch those videos, just those, not the whole thing, because I did that before and it was wasting my time. Then I zoned down on each one, took more practice exams, and just used plenty of resources.
Now,
And then, like you said,
whose videos did you watch? Professor Messer's and who else?
Professor Messer, Udemy, Jason Dion, Mike Myers, and I bought this whole bundle through like ITU Learning.
Yeah,
Is
it ITU Online, right? ITU Online?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the practice exams. I had like different platforms, some free ones, some cheap ones that I paid for, and the ones for sale on Udemy. So as long as you have a variety of resources, you're getting bits and pieces. And anything that I didn't have like an explanation on, I would just sit there and research to see, why the answer is correct and why it's incorrect.
Good. And you, Rick?
For me, it was pretty much the same thing. A lot of Udemy stuff in your course. Professor Messer, it's pretty much majority of what I used.
Yeah,
and Cybex books.
Cybex books you use also?
Yeah.
Good.
They're very detailed, maybe a little bit too detailed, but the practice test throughout it and the material was good. So
Now, who has the better practice test? Because I'm hearing a lot that Dion, he has the best.
I think Professor Measures are the best right
Really? Okay, that's interesting.
now.
The only qualm I have with Professor Messer is that, and I'm a big fan of his, but when he goes into these questions, let's say you already know what the answer is, right? 8 minutes later, and he's still on that same question. So that's, that gets to me a little bit because you're like, oh, I want to get to the next question, and he sits there and explain why is it not C? I know why. Get to the next question. But
That's the study groups, right?
yeah, that's the study groups. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took
wait a
those
little,
too.
yeah, if you wait a little bit, there's like they usually add like timestamps you can skip through.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, but yeah, that'll drive you. But if you watch them live, it'll
Oh
drive you
yeah,
nuts because you're waiting. I want to move on to number two, and 8 minutes later, he's still explaining it. Why is it not A? So that's my. But yeah, I didn't know that you were a big fan of at least of his questions. I know Jason Dion is very very. People praise him.
yeah. His Dion's practice tests are good. The questions might be a little bit too simple.
You
I
think?
think. Yeah, I think Professor Measures are much closer to what you're going to see on the exam.
Okay.
Huh. I've never tried Professor Messer's practice exams. I did Jason Dion's, but I agree with you, Rick. The Cybex, I did it with the second course that I took, and it's great because it's so detailed. Like you said, maybe a little too detailed that you start to second guess yourself and doubt yourself, but it ingrains the little details into your mind, and then you can put it into different ones that are like scenarios. So that's definitely a good resource.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you see that? I'm learning new stuff every day. So even from you guys, and this is great because, I'm having a lot of students, ask me, especially now that it's summer. My college students, they want to take the A+ class, the A+ exam now since they have time. So they're asking me, well, what's the best things to study? So yeah, I appreciate it. What advice would you give other students who are about to take the exam?
You know what is really important with stuff like this that's detailed, like the port numbers and whatnot. You got to keep that stuff fresh. So you can't wait in between months and months to take something. Not saying everyone learns different, but you got to keep that stuff fresh, which is why, I made myself study like every single free minute that I have and, push the kids aside. But also another tip is never pay full price for anything. There's always a promo code. Students
All
are
right.
poor.
All
You know
right.
what I
Yeah,
mean?
the student life is the poor life. I always say that. What about you, Rick?
I would agree. Try to take it as soon as possible after the course, but know where you are with it. Don't just rush into it either. You gotta at least feel that you're ready. Otherwise, you're just wasting a voucher. So
Right. Now, you guys both took the Network Plus. Is that correct?
yes,
Correct.
Now, how much of the network stuff is in A+? I usually tell my students around 50%. What do you think?
in the Net Plus.
Yeah, that it's 50% of Network Plus is in A+.
I would agree upon that. A lot of people get stuck on the subnetting in Network Plus, but if you got that part down, that's like one of the biggest differences. The A plus is like the basic, entryway to the Network Plus. So I agree with that, about 50%.
That kind of reminds me, you're going to get questions on the test that you might not know the answer to. It happens. They throw in random questions in there.
Yeah. So the thing about that, Rick, is that they consider those test questions. What I mean by that is they're testing those questions out, and you actually don't get scored on those.
Yeah,
So
but it really threw me for a loop with the Net Plus. I got a lot of things I know I didn't study for, and
Oh, and just another thing with the Net Plus, I felt like while I was taking the test, felt like I was so unprepared for the practical based questions because there were nothing like what I've seen on the practice questions. They took quite a long time. I gotta tell you that.
what about the simulators in the 1001 and the 1002? Do you have any? You remember what they were like?
I'd say pretty similar. A couple of them threw me off, but not too many.
What about you, Rick?
Yeah, that's pretty much all I would have to say about them. They're tricky, but I guess if you know the material, those are a little bit more straightforward than getting thrown for like those test questions.
Right. What is the main difference that you find anything? The main difference between the 1001 and the 1002?
The 1002 was more like troubleshooting oriented.
Okay.
So it was more the 1001 was more straightforward questions, and then the 1002 was going through the troubleshooting theory in the question, picking out how to solve it by using that 6 steps, I think, for the
The 7 troubleshooting steps?
yeah, I think it's 7 for the Net Plus.
Yeah.
It's 6 in the A Plus.
And Lisa, no? You got anything?
Yeah, I totally agree. It took me a lot more brain work, I got to tell you that, to get prepared for the 1002. That one was more troubleshooting. Like you said, first one was more like straightforward. Second one, a little bit trickier, and you really got to know your stuff. Like apply the 1001 to the 1002.
All right. Good. Good. This is some good stuff. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on. This, as you can see, guys, these are two students, former students of mine, who did what they're supposed to do, took their time, dedicated a lot of time to dedicate themselves to study. I know Lisa has two kids, so she had to sacrifice spending time with her kids in order to do this stuff. But this is all part of anything in life that you do. You really need to sacrifice if you want to be successful in anything, not just in computers, nursing. Right? Lisa used to be a nurse, and all that stuff. Right? You need to take time and dedicate it exclusively to study. We can give you all the material that you need, but if you don't sit down and study, it's not going to work. You're not going to pass the exam. And I want to thank Lisa and Rick for coming on. I truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you for taking time out of your day to do this and to help my students. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Professor Rodriguez.
All right, that's going to do it for today. Again, I want to thank both Lisa and Rick for coming on to the show. I hope you guys learned something. I know I did. And I hope that you're able to use some of their strategies that they use for, in order to help you pass your exams. I know they were very, very helpful. Even I learned a couple of things. So, again, thank you so much for listening. Until next time. This has been a presentation of Little Chacha Productions, art by Sarah, music by Jocom. If you need to reach me, you can always email me at ProfessorJRod@gmail.com or Twitter at ProfessorJRod. I'll see you next episode.